back to the salon. We've been doing the salon. We got the salon. So come on, come on, come on, come on. Every second Saturday. All right. Thank you, everybody. This is April 8th, 2023, Free Press Salon. We're going to focus on a little bit of the local elections that are going on here in Columbus, Ohio. We have great potential to address concerns that we've had for many years with the city council, with a redrawing of the rules of how the city council is constructed, and then also who may present themselves as city council members. So this will be exciting, and I hope Ms. Hood is able to give us a thumbnail sketch of the changes that are happening and how she's finding them. Are they better, worse, whatever? And I know she hasn't run for council before, but she definitely has been in political life for the last few years, and I'm sure can speak to that a little bit. And then Joe, he's been very, very much of a support of Free Press for many years. Has also been out of city councils, but he's addressing himself to come to the other side of the equation. You know, he's been addressing city council, and they're giving away of abatements and everything. But now he's going to come and be the master of all, the mayor. If we go with the right level of votes. So let's. And neither one of them have primaries. So this is sort of an interesting year that both elections and all elections are, what do you say, non-contested in a way. I don't know how to say it, because they are not. No one's going to primary. They're all going to general election, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go too. So I'm going to flip the coin. Oops, it landed on women's first. Sorry. So Adrienne, are you ready to go? Ms. Hood, are you ready to go with your presentation, or would you like Joe go first? Either way.
We can let Mr. Joe go first.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Joe Motil, he's mayor of Columbus, at least in our hearts, and is running for that now. And please go forward and give your presentation with us. And you're a good friend of Free Press, so please get down to the brass tacks. But just before you start, I do, Suzanne dropped some notes on me just before the salon. A long time friend of Free Press, and actually the instigator of the Free Press salons, Connie Harris, passed away last night. Has been battling with some disease, illness that she's had for a long time, and there she is. Stephen, thank you.
That's her on the left.
Yeah, on the left.
Red. She worked at Victorian's Midnight Cafe, and that's her there at Victorian's.
Yeah, and she was a beautiful musician, beautiful person, beautiful political analysis on many things. I first met her when the war on Iraq was getting going. There was some woman coming down from Mansfield, and she just started singing on the corner of 15th and High. I was like, who is this lady? And so I was very interested in meeting her. And so we met, and it's been an instant friendship, and continued for all these years. So 2023 or 2003 is when I think I first met her. I might have met her one other time before that, when we did something on Iraq as well. It was 1998. So, but just a quick moment of thought and prayer, and understanding that the community has lost a very critical member of ours, and we need to always understand that, and that life is short, and that we can't be, all our action, all our work is so urgent and so timely, that we need to stay on top of it and not be in delay. Justice delayed is justice denied. And so, Joe, I'm sorry, but yeah, go ahead, please. And I'm going to keep trying to sign on here. So thanks, Joe.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you said about Connie. It seems like it wasn't that long ago I ran into her somewhere, and I actually think it was at Dick's Den, and I just read that post maybe 15 minutes ago. Was pretty shocked to her, but I knew her health was bad. But thanks for bringing that up about her. As most of you know, that's on this call, you guys all know about me. You know what I've been doing for the last 40 years. It's been nearly 4 decades that I've been involved with city government now. It goes back to 1985. It goes back to actually when I was living in an apartment on South Campus. And that's kind of where I started my activism, cut my teeth in University District. You all know my background, lifelong resident of Columbus, 67 years, union worker, retired, and I don't want to talk a whole lot about that, but I want to really prefer to get into my platform and why I'm running. I think you all know why I'm running. We're sick and tired of the pay-to-play system at City Hall, a City Hall that is just basically about corporate Columbus and developers who run policy, where our tax dollars are being disproportionately spent to protect the investments of developers in corporate Columbus and institutions such as Nationwide Insurance, Ohio State University, you name it. And it's got to stop. And we all know that. We've got to do something about it. And to me, this has just been a natural progression to decide to run for mayor. I mean, I've run since 1995, ran for city council, ran for state representative. You all know I was involved with the Democratic Party back in the day. Around 2002, said enough of this. I'm too independent minded. I don't want people telling me how to think and what I should believe in and when it's my turn to run and what office I should run for and so forth and so on. So, been through all that, but we all know right now, the issues that are really facing Columbus are the lack of truly affordable housing and crime prevention, police reform, community policing, things of that nature. You all know I'm an advocate for the homelessness. I have a policy on anti-corruption as well. We need a 21st century transit system and better mobility in this city, and infrastructure improvements throughout the neighborhoods and commercial corridors, such as Parsons Avenue, Sullivan, West Broad, Main Street, Cleveland Avenue, and so forth. It's just like we barely get the crumbs in those areas in terms of infrastructure dollars that belong in those, that have been neglected in those areas for years. And instead, the sucking sound has gone into the downtown area, Short North, Franklinton, Scioto Peninsula, Easton, you name it, everywhere except where it needs to go. And unless, it's the same thing over and over again. Ginther's been out there campaigning, giving us promises, empty slogans, same old show. And when are the voters going to finally wake up and say, this is just another election year and the same old crap being spewed out of his mouth and other politicians making promises and such. And this is when it all happens. All of a sudden in an election year, you're going to see all kinds of new legislation, new ordinances, things of that nature, but barely any of them are really going to buck the system. And that means bucking corporate Columbus and the developers. It's all going to be things that we as Democrats and progressives, they can pass without a wink of the eye because it's going to be something that we support. And but they're not really putting pressure where the pressure needs to be, and that's on corporate Columbus and the developers. So about my affordable housing, and I know a lot of you have probably read and heard me say various things, but I just want to throw out some statistics real quick. First of all, Ginther's been mayor for 7 years. So this has been staring him in the face for the last 7 years. And really, there's been like 36,500 evictions filed between 21 and 22. 300 homeless people have died. There's 2,694 students that are homeless in Franklin County. The 3 most common occupations in Columbus pay less than $19 an hour. 76% of those individuals pay 50% or more of their income for housing. And there's at least 55,000 people in our community that are paying 50% or more of their income on housing. So Ginther's 2019 $50 million affordable housing bond package built 1,300 units with that money. That money was depleted at the end of 2021. There was no bond package money left in 2022 to build a single unit. I proposed when I was running for council in 19 that there be a $250 million bond package that could have constructed at least 6,000 or more affordable housing units. again, they don't want to listen to citizens like me or you or anybody else about our plans, what we think needs to be done. No, instead it's up to a mayor has no vision in terms of, or foresight in terms of what to do. From 2018 to 2022, some of you have heard about the community reinvestment area, or CRAs as they're called, or as I call them, a tax abatement policy. Those are, they're virtually, the whole city's almost a CRA. And those are tax abatements for luxury real estate developers who are required to set aside 20% of the units. And they're not even required to do it, okay? There's a buyout option, so it's not even a requirement. So they created 1,436 units out of those CRAs. But those affordable housing units were for people with incomes of $52,500 to $63,000. There was no unit built for anybody who earned $40,000 or less. So that really is just, it did nothing. It was a drop in the bucket in terms of trying to address affordable housing. And it really didn't create any for anybody that earned $40,000 or less. So many of you have already heard about my American Rescue Plan Fund plan, where the city contributes 60 million, the county contributes 60 million, and the Columbus Partnership also provides 60 million, which would create an immediate infusion of $180 million that you could create at least 6,000 units with. I've also requested that, or suggested that the hotel motel tax, that when people come into town, they got to pay an additional tax if they stay at a motel. Right now, some of that revenue goes to 4 different entities. One of them is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. 8.43% of those taxes go towards that fund, and that I want that increased to 25%. I've also written to the Columbus Partnership that they create their own Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that they start becoming a partner rather than just a group of capitalists that have their hands out for city income tax incentives and tax breaks. I've said I will lobby Intel to, in terms of wanting our water and sewer for their plants, which is they're going to need, and lobby them and say, you want our water and sewer, we want some money for affordable housing, because you're obligated to provide it because of what, first of all, they're getting over $2 billion in tax breaks from the state, county, and New Albany and everyone else. So with that $2 billion, I'm sure they can give a little bit of money back in terms of addressing the our affordable housing crisis. Amazon actually provided $300 million to 3 different locations where their plants are located throughout the United States towards affordable housing. So Intel can do the same thing. I've talked about spending tax dollars on purchasing land in the urban area, city tax dollars, so we can purchase and buy construct affordable housing units in these areas, because unless we actually just do it, it's just all going to turn into market rate housing throughout, whether it's Clintonville, German Village, Franklinton, Near East Side, you name it. The job center is going to be saturated with market rate housing, and then they're going to throw in these set-asides that don't amount to shit. We have got to start buying property as the city, and then provide affordable, and give it to a nonprofit, give it to them, let them construct affordable housing units there for 60% AMI and less. I've already encouraged and written a letter to the CEO of Nationwide Children's Hospital. They're building a $3.3 billion expansion, and requested that they build at least 100 units near as part of their $3.3 billion project to provide 100 units for those low wage earners that work at the hospital so they can walk to work. Somebody suggested, and I think this is a great idea, that we put a cap on single family tax abated homes. Because right now, they have tax abatements that they can get for a $500,000 home, $600,000, $700,000, whatever. Put a cap on tax abatements for those single family homes, perhaps $300,000 or less. And I've also, just as some of you have read my press releases about city council co-opting some of my proposals, and then John Beard's and our ballot initiative, giving tenants 6-month advance notice, providing free legal representation for those who face court evictions. And that's kind of like, just again, touches on what I've proposed thus far in terms of my affordable housing proposals. all of this can be read on my website, joemotil.com. My proposals are all there, at least up to, not everything in the world, of course, that I'm proposing, but a good portion of it. There'll be things added to it, off and on perhaps. But, if you read it and say, well, he's not talking about this or he's not talking about that, well, you can't put everything on your website. I'm sorry. Take a look at Andy Ginther's if you want to and see if he even has any proposals on there. He just pretty much talks about how great he is and how great the city's doing. And we all know it's not doing great for everybody. It's just doing great for a few. I don't know how much more time I get to talk, Mark. So if I'm going over, please let me know.
No, Joe, the mayor has total access. So you go do your thing.
Okay, thanks.
But yeah, for about 10 more minutes.
Okay. Oh, great. Thanks. I want to touch on the crime prevention comments and, things that I've already brought up. And, I'm sure most of you heard about the Ginther's, what's he call it? The Office of Prevention of Crime or something like that. And the fact of the matter is, Rena Shack, she was appointed as Ginther's general counsel after she lost her election in 2021 to Judge Gina Rousseau. She needed a job. So Ginther has had his own personal attorney, which I don't think any mayor has ever had their own personal attorney, because he has access to 60 attorneys at the city attorney's office. So what's he need his own personal attorney for? So anyways, this is pretty much a patronage job given to her. So here it is, an election year, and Andy comes up with this great idea, and the media, just talks it up like this is historic. It's the first office of violence prevention in the state of Ohio. It's like, so what? What's it going to do? What are the policies? How are they going to measure its success? They didn't mention. See, he hasn't said a thing about it. But regardless, this again, she's actually a criminal justice, I'm say a criminal defense attorney, and she's running the Office of Violence Prevention. And secondly, again, I guarantee you that this is going to be nothing more than, just something else to put on her resume. So the next time she runs for judge, she can say, oh yeah, and she was Andy Ginther's, the director of his Office of Violence Prevention. So again, this is just a bureaucratic position that really, as far as I'm concerned, isn't going to do anything to prevent crime. And what I've said is that really, in order to address crime, we're going to have to first focus on the underlying problems. And that's decent, affordable housing, public education, neighborhood and commercial infrastructure, structural racism, our homeless, child and mental health care, and a 21st century mass transit system, and genuine safety. I mean, unless we address these things, we're never going to get a grasp on crime, because these young kids of ours that are in these neighborhoods and looking at these deplorable conditions in these neighborhoods, and some of you really need to drive through, like, the Hilltop area, the South Linden areas, and through these side streets, and really get a feeling down these alleys and look how they have been just disinvested by the city. And I actually call it redlining by the city, because they've actually redlined these neighborhoods for decades, just as the banks have and everybody else, in terms of disinvestment of their infrastructure. And so they look around and think, how the hell am I going to get out of this situation? And they can't get a decent public education because Ginther's handed out $617 million in tax abatements since he's been in office, which has been a loss of at least $217 million. And that's conservative. Okay, that's just the tax abatements. That doesn't even include the lost revenue from tips. So there's money there for their public education. The lack of investment dollars because of the sucking sound of our tax dollars going to the places I indicated earlier. And how are they ever going to get out of this? They look around and you almost can't hardly blame it. It's like, how am I going to make a living? So they resort to crime. What are their chances? And their parents, trying to work hard, some of them working 2 jobs. And of course you hear, people saying, well, where are their parents? Hell, they're trying to make a living. They're probably working 2 jobs. They can't raise their kids as they should because they're trying to survive. I mean, it's a constant cycle of this. And until we really address these things, are we truly going to get a grasp on this and get children out of the grasp of poverty? Now, the programs that exist, I have, and Mark, you'll appreciate this, for years and years and years. As somebody who's been involved with the Recreation and Parks Department for 32 years at Tuttle Park and the head of their volunteer group, I have said that they have just butchered the Recs and Parks budget ever since Mel Dodge was director. And until they start funding that department better with more money as to the way it used to be, that is going to help tremendously. And now the city has provided more funding for summer programs, this, that, and the other. But you know, this should have been done years and years ago. And that funding should not be just for the summer, it should be year round. And so we have to really do a lot more with our recreation and parks and fund it the way it should have been and the way it used to be. There's also a program that I was actually turned on to by somebody who has a, they have cameras installed that are connected, they for like 40 bucks a piece on a resident's home. And all this video goes directly to one source, and it's dirt cheap. And they can actually review crime that's taken place in the alleys and the yards and this, that, and the other. And it's a large neighborhood area that's covered. And that video can get turned over to police when crime is seen. And they have actually provided some of this video to the police department and seen shootings in action, thefts in action, robberies in action. And it's a really effective tool, and it's much, much cheaper than putting up the large cameras at street corners and places like that that the city has now. I think they said the cost of one of those cameras is something like $24,000 a piece or something. And then the cost to operate it. This is it'll save the taxpayer's dollar. It's very effective. And it's something I think that I would like to look into, and I think something I would incorporate too as mayor. There's also a program that was explained to me that used to be used on the Near East Side. And it's where they created like ambassadors or people that are respected in the community. And they're out there on the streets helping the young people to talk to and say, what are you doing out here? Helping them out. And basically, once you get these ambassadors out there talking to these youth, as mentors and such, and paying them a stipend, if you would, not a lot of money, but it seemed like it helps because they respect the older people, and it helps for crime to diminish. You have a lot of vacant lots and things like that on the Near East Side and places like that. We need to reclaim those lots, use them for things. And again, this is where the commercial corridor infrastructure improvement dollars go to. You start improving these commercial corridors, and it's going to help reduce crime as well. And again, if people and kids and children and others are walking down the street, driving down Livingston Avenue, looking at vacant, empty buildings, code enforcement issues all over the place, what do you think that draws? It draws crime, of course. So until we start reinvesting into these areas, are things going to change? I really would ask people to go to my website and take a look at it. My proposals are there for how to address the unsheltered, my Office of Anti-Corruption, 21st century transit mobility, the environment, and things of that nature. And it's all there. You can comment on it. You can contact me by phone, by email, leave a message there. And if I don't get time, I need to put a quick plug in for it. I need some help this Thursday, and it's on there too. At my house, we're going to stuff envelopes, put stamps on envelopes to raise some money at 11 o'clock. And that is Thursday, 11 to 2, 167 West Cook Road. It's on the website too, where you can volunteer. And also at the annual Bread Nehemiah Action Meeting on April 25th, it's at the Celeste Center at the fairgrounds. I'm looking for people to meet me there at about 5:50 p.m. to hand out literature to those thousands of people that are going into the meeting about my affordable housing proposals, because they're going to be talking about American Rescue Plan dollars being spent they're going to request that the city, as they have been for 2 years, just like I have, to spend American Rescue Plan dollars, and also ask them to implement a municipal ID program, which I've been in support of for about 5 years of theirs. I asked that they allow me on their stage for that night because Ginther's been invited, and I thought it was unfair if they don't, being an election year, because I've seen politicians go on that stage and lie and say they would support something and they never did. And again, this could be just an opportunity for Ginther to get up there and just tell his lies for an election year and then not do anything about it. And everybody's going to stand there and clap and say what a great guy Andy is. And I asked that the executive committee give me the opportunity, but they denied it. So I want to hand out literature before the meeting, and there's going to be something else done that night too, if Ginther shows up.
Thanks, Joe. Suzanne and Bob have their hands up about something. Hold off for that for 2 seconds, but there are some questions as well about the abatements, but go ahead, Suzanne, you first, and then we'll, or Bob, whoever's hand is up.
It's me. I just didn't get your address because I can put this out in email.
Sure. 167 West Cook.
And then what day is the red thing?
The fundraiser thing is Thursday, this Thursday.
Oh, they're both on the same day.
No. This Thursday is the fundraiser stuff and envelopes from 11 to 2 p.m.
Okay.
And then the Nehemiah action at the fairgrounds is the 25th of April.
Okay.
That's a Tuesday. Yeah.
Now bring a napkin so that you can wipe your head off, because they do try to come at you pretty hard at bread. Okay, just so you know.
I've been going to them for years. Ever since they had them at Vets Memorial.
Yeah. Suzanne, did you get details enough for you?
What building again is the
It's at the Celeste Center.
Celeste Center? Okay.
Yeah. And if you go to my website, you can volunteer there, and I got my volunteer coordinator will let me know who's volunteered, or you can email me. I mean, my information's all out there. Text me, Facebook message me, Twitter and message me any way you want.
So Joe, there's some questions in the chat. You run an independent, Democrat, Republican, Democrat.
Yep.
So you're within that. So that's good.
It's a nonpartisan election, everybody. All city races are nonpartisan. Attorney, council, auditor, mayor.
Yeah. So the one other question that Will can answer these questions or ask these questions himself later, but the one is about abatements, and he wants to have you delve into it a little bit more about abatements, and would the monies gained from a loss of abatement, I say it negatively, but if abatements go away, there's monies to be had. He says, is one of your top priorities school funding? I know the mayor doesn't really have much over that, but where would you see that money going to, that if abatements were reduced, eliminated, whatever, where would that money go to in your priorities?
Well, the thing is, if the tax abatements are eliminated, okay, and primarily what I'm looking at is the tax abatements for community reinvestment areas that provide 80 and 100% AMI. I am not against nonprofit housing 60% AMI and less for tax abatements. I'm against, now there's, I hope all of you are going to follow this. There's enterprise zone tax abatements. Yeah. All right. That's like to build a warehouse at Rickenbacker. Okay. That's called an enterprise zone. They get 10-year, 75%. Those should be eliminated, period. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever for anybody to get a tax abatement at Rickenbacker Air Force Base, because it is the most sought after logistics center in the Midwest. It is guaranteed money. And that goes for neighborhoods like the Short North, downtown, and other risk-free development areas. So what that does is that frees up the property tax money that's being abated, and it's not for me to decide, but that money would go back into the schools where it belongs. That's where it's being lost. That's where that revenue is being lost primarily. Okay. So I think that's the answer you want to hear. It's not for me to say, okay, this is where I'm going to put this property tax revenue. No, it's being stolen by the abatement. Thus the schools are getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah. Well, the schools have been unconstitutionally funded for over 20, 30 years now, 97. 97, somewhere around there. Yeah, so yeah, we've been in an unconstitutionally standing for city or state, within the state, all public school funding has been unconstitutional. It's been repeatedly stated that. Will, go ahead. You've had some questions, so you go ahead and do your thing. And then we got to get to Adrienne. She said she's here with the duration, but I do want to honor her time as well. And then Joe, we'll get back a little bit more with your whole campaign and get a little bit more interest in that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have to leave at 8 o'clock too, so
Okay, then
I gotta pick my wife up.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Will, do your thing, please. Can we unhook him? Can we unhook him, Stephen, please? Thank you. Okay, Will.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go.
Okay. I'm just trying to get cleared up on this because I know that it's a nonpartisan race,
Yep.
but is there going to be actually a primary? And the reason I'm asking this is that I want to vote for you, but I am a registered Republican.
Yeah, there's no primary. What happens is if more than 3 people would have ran for mayor and been on the ballot, the top 2 vote getters would have gone on to the November election. So there's only 2 people on the ballot, so there's no primary.
Good. All right.
This
You
is
got my
very
support,
unusual.
buddy.
This is very unusual. The city council usually has primaries. They don't this year, and it's a whole. And we'll get more into that when we get into Ms. Hood's campaign. But yeah, it's very unusual not to have primaries for the mayor and or city council. So this year, I think there were so many different changes and people were like, what's going on? You know, where am I? What district I'm in, you know, for city council and then mayor, you know, the expectation is Ginther to walk over anybody. But, you know, I think Joe's going to punch him in a few spots in the belly that he may not be able to sustain. And we'll you know, body blows are very important in boxing. And campaigning is boxing. Joe, do you have anything last that you want to say before we'll jump to Ms. Hood, Adrienne Hood, and then we'll hopefully get back to you a little bit if you before you leave, but I know spouse responsibilities are very important.
No, go ahead. That's okay. Yeah, I might say something later, but yeah, I'll let Ms. Hood.
All right, Adrienne, are you ready? Are you ready to go now? I just lost it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for your years of commitment to justice, to the community that you're serving. And what district are you going to represent? Let's go for that one first, because maybe step back and say, okay, we're getting 9 districts now, and how do you feel that is going to play out? Because, you know, it's a hybrid and the whole thing, but I'll let you sort of take lead where you want to go. But I think those are some of the interesting elements of this election is the change of city council structure, but also more personally for your campaign, you've come out of a very heartfelt personal event that happened that catapulted you into public life. You probably didn't want that at first, and now here you are. So I appreciate your leadership that has happened, and please go forward how you'd like to.
Yeah, thank you first and foremost for the invitation to be here this evening. It's not my first time. I'm not sure if all the people on the Zoom are familiar with me. But I have, this is not my first time being here. So I am at home.
It won't be your last.
Not at all. And y'all may hear my background singers in a minute because my grandchildren are coming down the steps as we speak, even though I told them to stay up there.
They want to get you now.
So a few things for those that don't know anything about me. My name is Adrienne Hood, and I am running in District 4 for City Council since this is the first year that we are going into the districts, adding additional members to city council. We're going from a 7-seat to a 9-seat council. And like I said, this is the first year for the districts. So as far as the districts are concerned, well, before I touch that, I am retired from the Air Force Reserves. I did 3 years of active duty with the U.S. Army before switching over, and my background singers are here. I'm doing something. Okay, go upstairs. No. Ask TT. Go.
Can you introduce your chief of staff?
Sure. Come here. Let me introduce y'all. These are my
Your
two
chief of staff. These are
my
your
2 3-year-old. These are my junior campaign managers and promoters and such. So that's Kanila that just waved, and that's baby Jaden that just waved. And the little one will probably be following suit with them. And she's one. And right on time and on cue. She's back here behind us. And she's one. Okay, now go. Y'all said hi. See you later. Go upstairs. Okay, so I am the grandmother of 4.
Thank you for sharing that, please.
You're welcome. I have 4 grandchildren, 3 children, and as many of you know, my oldest son was killed by Columbus police, which is exactly what thrusted me into this space after spending many years minding my own business. I am a Columbus native, grew up in Linden. We still own the house that my grandmother bought years before I was born. My aunt lives in it now. Unfortunately, we lost my grandmother 3 years ago now. Graduated from Columbus schools. Like I said, went into the military active duty Army, did 3 years there, and then switched over to the Air Force Reserves, where I finished out my career and retired on Christmas Day, actually, of 2020. So right as COVID was, right as we were getting into the whole COVID, I decided to retire because the things that I was learning about Columbus that I was not aware of were beginning to bother me more and more as I went through the whole, the fight, the phases of the fight, trying to get justice for my son. And I really don't even like using that word because there can be no justice where my son is concerned, because you can't give me my child back. So I have been fighting for accountability and helping other family members do the same, not just here in Columbus, but around the state of Ohio. We founded an organization called Ohio Families Unite Against Police Brutality. And so we try to go in and give families the information that they need, that we didn't know, that we needed to do, and felt that it was important for us to start communicating that information to family members, especially around civil cases and such, because there is a tight deadline when it comes to the legality piece of it. So like I said, as I continue to learn the ins and outs of how Columbus moves, how people navigate these spaces, so thankful to know Mr. Joe, because I have learned and am learning so much from him, because like he said, he's been in it for such a long time. I always tell him, Mr. Joe, you got the receipts, and you know where the bodies is buried. And they don't like that, but I'm here for it all. So I love history. And like I said, I've learned a lot from him, and am continuing to learn. from him, I have been working with a lot of different community organizations that are serving different elements of our community. And so with all of that, me deciding to run for city council actually started out at a conversation that Mr. Joe and I was having when we were walking in a action that we did for Casey Goodson last summer. Yeah, I think it was last summer or the summer before. And we both looked at each other and was adamant about Andy would not be running uncontested again. I knew nothing. I still don't know a whole lot about the mayoral race, but I was willing to put my name in, even if it was just going to disturb his whole spirit, so that he would not be uncontested. But I was so thankful when Mr. Joe texted me and asked me to give him a call and he told me what his plans were. I was like, awesome, I can go for city council. I had thought about different levels of government as far as, state legislation. And after just really thinking about that a bit more and how the state house is super majority Republican right now, I just wanted to be and want to be somewhere where I can be most effective for the ones that I am connected to on a daily basis. And so city council just made sense. And so when they did the change of the districts, which comes out of issue 1, that we worked hard to get on the ballot, and Mr. Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was 2018 that we were pushing for Columbus to actually go to districts, to real districts. And there was a lot of money that was spent to defeat that initiative. And this is the version that has been presented to us that the city, has given us. So it is deceptive in a lot of ways. It's deceptive as far as the districts are concerned. The only thing that was district required was for me to collect the signatures from my district to get on the ballot. Now it is in essence an at-large race. So what will happen, what Mr. Joe explained as far as the primary is concerned, it was the same. It's the same for city council as well. The top 2 we're going to go on to November. Anyway, most of the districts are uncontested, unfortunately, and the other districts only have 2 other people in them. And so therefore, there's no primary for the city of Columbus. We do have primaries in Gahanna and Whitehall and Hilliard, I believe. But for Columbus, there won't be any. So like I said, as far as districts was concerned, it really was just in order to get on the ballot. Now it is a citywide race. And so when we go to vote in November, each of us, when we go into the polls, will have all 9 districts pop up, and we will select, if you choose, you select one of the 2 in each of the districts. So in essence, it's again, it's a citywide race. I don't have, obviously, the experience that Mr. Joe has, but the things that are near and dear to me are public safety, for obvious reasons, although it is not my target or my focus is not police only. There are so many other levels to public safety that we all know. And it is important for us to, push for policy that includes all of those areas. And so public safety will be at the top of my list always. Public education, mental health, and affordable housing. All of those are things that I and my team and the different organizations that I have been working with over the years, I am leaning on them in those areas to develop the policies that I would like to see happen. I have learned so much around the tax abatements, and we absolutely have to do something about that. That we cannot continue to go in that direction, because it's not going to work out well for us on the continuum, right? And so as I continue to connect with the leaders of these areas, I am working my policy pieces out as we speak. But for me, at this point in time, when someone asks me why it is that I am running because we need to be in the room. And when I say we, I mean us, the everyday common folk that go to work, do what they're supposed to do, trying to raise their families, trying to make sure that their children have the best education that they can. And the least in our community are being watched after as well. And so that's the passion that I will take with me no matter where I go. I did scream with the party on last Saturday, not because I had hopes of getting the endorsement, but because I'm not going to give them an easy no. I think for far too long we are just, the party is what it is, and and we're just going to go with the flow. And it's like, no, we collectively have so much more power than the people that we think have the power or that we have given the power to. And so I'm not afraid to stand on my own. I have, and I've always been that way. This is, not just because I lost my son, that all of a sudden, this awakening happened for me. It's not the case. So my passion for my community, to be able to be in the space and tend to them and to take care of us, is where my focus is. It is why I am running. I do have my website is up. And it is my name, adriennehood.com is my website. And I have Facebook and I have Instagram, and both of those handles are Hood for FORCOLS. And then like I said, that's Facebook. Facebook and Instagram is my social media. I don't have Twitter. I don't really know how to I don't really know how to work Twitter. Honestly, I don't even know how to do social media. But I got people. So thank God for the people. But like I said, we're continuing to build my my platform out and work with the people that I have been working with over the years for my platform as far as policy is concerned. But my thing is, and my commitment to everyone is, I'm going in there to represent those of us who really do the work, not the organizations that continue to get the dollars and then we don't have access to those dollars. I am committed to being the voice for those of us that come in here and do the work continuously. And so, you know, if anyone wants to volunteer, if anyone wants to donate or anything like that, you can go to my website. I just seen somebody put it in the chat, because the first one had my name spelled wrong. So the second one is actually how you spell my name, ADRIENNE, hood.com. And you can sign up to volunteer. You can sign up to, you know, to stay engaged and informed in what we're doing. We were going to do a fundraiser the last week of April, but my schedule has changed, so I will be out of the state. I'm actually going to be meeting with the UN because I am a fellow with Mothers Against Police Brutality from out of Dallas, Texas. And so the United States, the United Nations are going to be in Atlanta that last week. And so I will be there, hopefully trying to get a move on police accountability here in our country. So my first fundraiser is going to be in May, but I will definitely make sure to get Ms. Suzanne the information so that she can share it with you all. And I just look forward to continuing to serve. My life has been about service, and I will continue to do it, be it in this capacity come November, or as I have, you know, just continue to do. But I thank y'all for always, you know, being available and being open and providing me space to share. And I look forward to the campaign.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hood. Thank you very, very much for your commitment to the city of Columbus and to putting your personal life out there. I know it'll be a challenge. So Joe and Ms. Hood, Adrienne, campaigning is hard, especially as a progressive, an outsider, not you know, a friend of the party elite. How have you found that relationship? You said you did some screening Saturday, and Joe, you've done a little bit of something too, I'm sure. How are you finding that relationship? But more importantly, how are you finding the campaigning? How are you managing your time? And Ms. Hood, why don't you go first, and then Joe? How are you managing your time, and how are you taking care of yourselves? How are you taking care of yourselves? I know taking care of them children, that's probably helping a lot, but anybody got a suggestion on that? You know, with campaigning, it's a, as Brian Curtis is saying, it's a pay to play kind of thing. So
Well, you know,
yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I probably spend, I don't know, 6-7 hours a day at least, minimum, on my campaign. And that starts in the morning, looking at social media, seeing what's going on, you know, reading Twitter, reading the news, replying to emails, replying to Twitter. If something's big, getting a press release together, getting it out to the media, getting it out to my supporters. And, you know, really just, it's constant. Once in a while, you get a couple days where you try to catch up with stuff. And, you know, I'd love to show you a picture of my headquarters up here. What a, you know, papers all over the place. And it's, you know, working with the website. I mean, there's constantly, and there's people always contacting me about something. I mean, and it's sometimes it's somebody that wants advice, somebody bringing something to my attention, somebody giving me advice, helping me with something. We're going to do a media video next week. I am with somebody for a couple days, doing some traveling around to different locations and So we'll have a kind of a promotional video to put on Facebook, one of the, for 30-second, 1-minute thing. So I've got somebody working on that. I am actually going to spend some time to go visit one of my parents and family friends, a woman that that was like my second mom, who's like 91 years old. I haven't seen her in a couple of years. I used to see her every Christmas, and then she moved in with her son. She lived near where I do, so I used to just drive to her house, pick her up some chocolate and take it over. And so I've been feeling guilty. I haven't done it for the last couple of years since she moved in with her son. So I'm going to go visit her Tuesday. I still try and find go to the gym. I wanted to do a piano show today, but I didn't have time. Maybe tomorrow, we'll see. I just got my piano tuned Wednesday, so I want to make sure I get to play while it still sounded good. But you got to keep your sanity. You got to, I got to live still. I got to spend time with my family and do stuff. And sometimes it feels like it's overbearing, and it's early in the campaign. And it's like, I feel like I'm falling behind sometimes with things. I got to get this done. And there's things that I am behind on and trying to catch up with. And believe me, that's why it's really, and I know how much everybody appreciates what Adrienne and I are doing. And it's tough to run for office. Bob knows it. He's done it several times, but it takes help. It really does. We need volunteers. We need people to help us with this stuff. It's not easy, and a lot of it falls on our shoulders that we have to take care of. But it's moving. I feel good about it. I'll be at ComFest. I'll be at Marion Village. I've got Monday. I'm going to order my T-shirts, some literature, a banner. So I'm spending money. I'm raising a little bit of money. I need more, but there's time for that. And you got to just keep moving. And something new happens almost every day. And it's almost like sometimes you're like today and yesterday were kind of a slow days news-wise. And thankfully it was, because I really needed to catch up with some stuff. And so that's kind of how my days go.
John, I see your hand up, but Ms. Hood, do you have any insights on how you maintaining your sanity in this whole insane reality?
A whole lot of prayer and
Yes,
a
ma'am.
whole lot of worship. It just keeps me grounded. And then, just remembering, why I'm here, and knowing that I'm not doing it, alone. I'm thankful for the team that is continuing to come and build around me. That's just been paramount, because all of the things that Mr. Joe said that we continuously have to keep up with. I have 3 people on my email, on my campaign email, because I don't want to miss something important. Like, I have multiple people on all of the channels that I use for communication. I have multiple people on those, so that if something comes through that I miss or whatnot, there's somebody else that catches it or brings it to my attention. And then when I need to sit down, I do. Like, and I'm unapologetic about that, because if I die before we get to the finish line, what good was it, right? So when I need to sit down and do, and take that time for myself, like this morning, I went and got my oil changed, and on the way home, I stopped and got me a massage, because it's necessary. It's necessary for me to, be able to take care of myself, because I cannot be of good service to the community if I don't take care of myself. And that's something that I used to not do well, quite honestly. But when I lost my son and joined a couple of support groups, I just learned so many ways to be able to take care of myself, to give word and meaning to the things that I was feeling and having to process. And so all of that has helped prepare me for being in this space at this time. I do still work a full-time job. You know, I'm retired from the reserves, but I do still work a full-time job. So I do that. And then thankfully I work from home, but yet it's still, I have to do that commitment. And then after that commitment, you know, I do the things that I need to, you know, do with the campaign. But I'm thankful that I have people around me that I'm able to delegate some of the responsibility to.
Thank you. And definitely always keep that a priority. You guys take care of yourselves through this whole thing. When you're doing merchandising, remember that the small, but also the large folk as well. You know, get your 5X, 4X, 3Xs, but also get your mediums. John has a question, please. John Lasker, please. Can you unmute, John?
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hi, Miss Adrienne. I'm praying for you too.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
He moved on the screen. I was looking over
Oh.
here, and then
He's a speaker
Sorry.
now, so he's jumped up.
Yeah.
okay.
Miss Adrienne, I'm praying for you too. I've written some
Thank you.
stories about you for the Free Press. I had a question for you.
Okay.
Now, I know the Columbus Monthly had you on their cover, correct? Yes.
Yes.
And then the Dispatch has profiled you as an activist, but have they reached out? Has the local media reached out to you now that you're a candidate to profile you as a candidate?
No.
They haven't. Okay.
No.
I mean, you know, that kind of upsets me because the Columbus Monthly, they would put you on the cover of their magazine, but then they're going to ignore you as a candidate. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. So that I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had conversation about that with my team, but no, there has not been an invitation.
I don't think Columbus Monthly's mentioned a peep about the elections period, anything.
I mean, Joe, how do you explain that?
I kind of think it's
Well,
intentional.
since this is being recorded, I better not say.
I
I think you all know the answer.
mean, it's kind of obvious, but it's just, I mean, I just
It's
can't believe it,
shameful.
really.
It's shameful.
It
really
is.
It's
Yeah, the Columbus's politics has definitely been in the pocket of big pockets for a long time, and to buck the system is challenging, and we only get a few folks to get pushed through. You know but you know the Tennessee 3 have proved this week that people being in the situation, being in the room is so important to call attention to things that are not going right. Yeah, you're going to catch hell even when you get in the office. Excuse me, heck. Excuse me. You're going to catch heck even when you're in the office, when you become mayor, when you become a city council member. And one of my other questions have always been is city council and the mayor's office has always been sort of, they play themselves as being at edge with each other. How are you guys going to play well together?
you
How are you
know
going to play well together?
the thing is, I've been asked that question by reporters and such, and others saying, you know, how are you guys going to get along with each other? I mean, it's like, if I'm the mayor of Columbus, we got to work together. What, are you not going to work with me as mayor? I mean, how are they going to work with me? I mean, seriously, I mean, it's what are my ideas and thoughts about really helping the people and the things that I believe in, are you that against it? I mean, seriously, it's like, you know, I turn it right back at them. How are you going to work with me?
Nice.
You know what I represent. You know who I represent, and I know who you represent. So isn't it time, as a true Democrat, isn't it time that you come over and be a true Democrat and do what's right for the people and prioritize the people's needs as opposed to the big money interest in this town, which we all know is true, and don't deny it. And it's funny when you mentioned the Tennessee 7 and stuff like that, the media loves to report about things like that happen, the local media that happen out of state. Okay, because that makes it look like, oh, look what we're reporting. And in news in the state of Ohio, how often do they report about city politics? Except for what Ginther's doing, what city council's doing, and it's almost like a propaganda machine. There's never any other viewpoint about whether this is a good thing or bad thing. They never go to another source because one thing, there's no Republican Party in the city of Columbus, politics wise. So they can't even go to the Republican Party and say, how do you feel about this? Because they're non-existent. Why? Because they're all being taken care of. The Republican businessman in Columbus. It's all about money, you know? So why are they going to go to the Republican Party and ask them, what do you think about the mayor's proposal? But they won't even take my, look into my proposals or the press releases that I send out during an election year. They ignore it. How can you ignore that? When I'm running against the mayor and it's an election year and no one else is saying anything about it, and you won't even come to the person running against them, that's what you're up against in the city, major local media, especially the TV.
Yeah.
I said it. I shouldn't have, but I did.
And you didn't cuss at all, so that was good.
I did pretty good that time. Well, construction workers, it's kind of hard to hold back on your tongue. That's just the way of the world. If you're 40 years in the construction field, that's the kind of language I'm used to using.
Have you been invited, either one of you, to the IBEW is hosting a candidates breakfast coming up this week or next? I'll get you that detail. I was looking for it. I couldn't find it right away. I just got invited myself.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I'll send you those details if you haven't heard about those. I got to look through my emails. Ms. Hood, how are you going to work well with the mayor? Mayor Motil.
Oh, well, that'll be easy. That'll be easy for me. Clearly, when I get in that seat, it is going to be a disruption to the way things have been done here for a very long time. But it's not my responsibility to conform to their ways. I have to stay true to why it is that I ran, and to the people that I ran for. And so it's going to be the responsibility of everyone to do the work, because at the end of the day, why are we there? We are there to serve the members of Columbus. That's the bottom line. We're not here to serve corporations, and all of those other entities. We are here to serve the members of Columbus the best way that we can. And so that's the responsibility of a servant leader. And I will not have a problem in reminding them of that. And quite honestly, I think that it is so very important for us to not just educate the community in this process, in this campaigning process, but I think that it has to be ongoing. And as we continue to build that piece of it out, the education and the awareness piece of it out, those individuals can either serve the community or they can get replaced too. If it's one by one, or what have you, it just is what it is. But the bottom line is the community needs to be represented, and we're not seeing a lot of that happen.
Real quick, Mark, and I'm going to have to take off to pick up my wife, but
Yeah.
just on this point, what we're talking about, the CEOs, the CFOs, the COOs, and the presidents of the Columbus Partnership who don't even live in Columbus did not vote me into office. They are not the ones who put me there. It's the people of Columbus that voted, And it's not the corporate leaders who live in New Albany, who live in Bexley, who live in Upper Arlington, and aren't even residents of this city, did not put me in office. It's their money that puts people into office, right? That's the way it's been working for too long. But it's not their vote, and they're not even residents of this city. It's the people that we represent.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great way to think about it, is that the city elections are financed many times out by outside folks, and that whole thing. You guys both being Libby Gregory award winners, thank you for your continued and lifelong work, many years, decades of work. Esther is on too, I see. So maybe Esther has she's another Libby Gregory. I'm not going to force her to talk. Charles has a question, hand up right now, but if Esther is interested in talking to being another Libby Gregory, if you wanted to say something before Joe jumped off, and then Charles will get to you if Esther has anything real quick. Can we unmute her for sure, Stephen? If she's not able to talk. I don't see her right now, but I was told she's on. Go ahead, Charles, and then we'll get to Esther.
Well, Joe, that speech you made, it wasn't a speech, but if you answered Stephen's question, you need to say that every day. Get the media to hear you say it every day. Whether they sit down with you on an interview, or you've got to shout it to them in their face. And that goes for Adrienne, too. I mean, you're up against the city machine. Let's just lay the cards on the table here. It's just like Gailing in Chicago or wherever. That's the only way. You just got to go at them.
Yep.
They're scared. Like I said in the chat, they're scared essless of you. Okay, they show that because they're trying to ignore you. It's when the boogeyman comes in the room, you ignore the boogeyman. Maybe the boogeyman will go away. Well. Unfortunately for them, the boogeyman ain't going away. The people in
Thanks,
you.
Charles. Yeah, so you've spoken a little bit about affordable housing and some other top agendas. Have you done sort of a ballpark, sort of a breakdown of 60% here, 40% here, 30% here of the budget, of the city budget? I'd be interested in that. If you haven't done that, that's okay. That for me, I'm a city employee, I am a city employee. So Rec and Parks, we were told by assistant director that we've moved up enormously in our priority. Joe, you were mentioning how Rec and Parks needs to be a little bit more accessed. We're stretched already like a rubber band, almost snapping, because we don't have enough staff, first of all, but then they're really asking us to do more, which we're not really trained in doing. We have people that can roll basketballs out pretty good, but to do that social emotional learning and all the other stuff that's within that whole bailiwick that you throw out there, have you guys thought a little bit about the priority spending? I know it's going to be, you're not going to upset the apple cart too much. So, the public safety is definitely going to be top number one, always is, but maybe not. I don't know. Have you thought about upsetting that apple cart a little bit and maybe not having that guaranteed 77-80% of the budget being sucked up into public safety?
I'm going to just real quick give it a response.
Yeah, I know you got to go.
If I don't leave, my wife will kill me if I'm late.
You better go.
But
you don't need to
I just want to say, like I said earlier, infrastructure improvements are really important to me. New sidewalks, better pedestrian safety, things of that nature, are critical. So things to do for our, in partnership with CODA for our transit system, whatever we can do. Commercial corridors have to be improved. So infrastructure dollars for both neighborhoods, commercial corridors. We're doing a little bit here and there that's noticeable, but it's got to get deep into the neighborhoods. We really have to start using that. And again, I have to.
I know you got to go. So see you, Joe. Thanks again. And we'll see you again.
Great.
The other question that, yeah, sort of Patty sort of tacks on to that is the city council, city in general, has really put forward a clean energy plan, green plan. Have you become aware and familiar with that, Ms. Hood, and where was that going to fit into your work with the readjustment of, as someone says, more green space and the rapid 5 response to things, other realities that are out there that are starting to come, piecemeal together, but it's not a comprehensive agenda in a lot of ways. How do you see bringing that more into making it a city policy, that kind of thing? It is a city policy. I mean, the Clean Air Act and that whole thing. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, so I honestly just started learning about the city policy. I have been working with Miss Kathy Cohenbecker. She's the one that I reached out to find out, because I know that that is her arena hands down. And so everybody knows that I am doing something right now. Wait. Now even the dog is acting up. My God. I am so sorry, y'all. It's like everything.
It may be bothering you more than us. We can hear it, but it's not really inverting your
yeah, it's bothering me. That might be the military piece of me. It's like structure. But I am working with Miss Kathy to become more familiar with all of that. Honestly, until I met Miss Kathy and started listening to some of their presentations and whatnot, I didn't even realize how much growing up in Linden that my environment was even impacted. Like I was so unaware. And so the more that I learn, I just keep saying this, the more that I learn, the more ticked off I get that things have been this way for so long and nothing's really has been done about it. And now we're at this place of urgency and an emergency because it's a campaign year. And it's like, no, it's not because it's a campaign year. It's because people's lives have literally been affected by all of these things. And to sit by and not say anything, or to not learn anything about it, or reach out to the individuals. Again, for me, I have no problem in saying what I don't know. I have no problem in saying that. But I am a resourceful person and I love to do research. So when I find the person that I need to lean into, I do that. And so Ms. Kathy has opened up that door for me to learn more about this the environmental piece. And I'm going to use that resource because it is necessary. And like I said, I really had no idea until she started breaking the things down to me. And I was like, and I started.
So the puppy is starting to impact your microphone a little bit. You're starting to fade back, and they're starting to speak a little bit more. So if the puppy has more to say,
I know y'all are doing this live, so that's really not. But I'll finish with this. I am definitely going to continue to work with Miss Kathy so that I can be stood up on this and advocate in this area as well.
Thank you. Yeah, you have good advocates in town that have really been pushing forward policies on green space and clean energy, clean policy. Remy has been a supporter on the council, and I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, if he gets through, there are some folks on there that have some aspects that within that bailiwick. Now, thank you again for your campaign, your work in general, and hopefully keep us up to date with what's going on with your campaign. And I know Joe will as well. We may come back to you a little bit closer to the campaign and see what really hard points that we may need to touch base with for you at like in September, maybe August, just before the cutoff of who will get to vote. You know, the registration deadlines will be in October, so we definitely want to get everybody up on queue and work as much as we can in those times before the cutoff. But then that last month, how can we really push the goal across the goal line? You know, the ball across the goal line. So thank you again for offering to serve the city of Columbus, and we know you'll be a great voice for the people of Columbus and in District 4. Definitely got to remember District 4. And have you ever ridden any of those Linden the vehicles that are electric, non-person vehicles that are riding through? They're the strangest. I don't know if folks have seen those. They just ride through the neighborhood. Nobody's on them, but kids are on them. I mean, people are on them. They're riding them, but no, they go right past Douglas Rec Center and up and down Cleveland. But it's an electric car that's non-person driven. It's an interesting thing they've started in the Linden area. That's the only place they've got it right now. So Bob,
they've actually the last that I heard anything about it, they had actually postponed. They had tabled it because there was a couple of incidents of people getting hurt.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. I don't know the status, the current, but I'd been on it a few times, probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3, whenever it became in it. It's been a while since I was on it. But yeah, Bob Ream, go ahead. He's our calendar guy, and if you have any events that you have coming up, please give it to Bob. Bob Ream is the one you want to give it to. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Adrienne said basically what I was going to say. I met with a group of transportation people on a test ride on those driverless vehicles, and it went fine. But then about 2 weeks later, there was a person on that vehicle and it abruptly stopped for some unknown reason. The person was thrown to the floor. And my understanding was they've abandoned the project, which may not be accurate, but I've heard nothing about it until Mark mentioned it.
Yeah, they probably put it on hold because someone got hurt. Yeah. And those personless drivers are definitely that's the technology that the corporations want to go, and I'm not sure we're ready for it as a human race. So I'm not sure, but we'll see. You know, technology is such. You know, some folks maybe didn't want the computers when they first started or whatever. So yeah, I'm sort of reluctant to push too hard on things. But yes, thank you, Ms. Hood, again for doing your due diligence in trying to push good progressive word out. I'm being reminded that WGRN and WCRS are great formula and platforms for you to use in campaigning. And please consider getting on WGRN and WCRS. They are low power FM stations, but we just got a new, I hope, I haven't heard yet, but a new tower, and it's up funding and functioning and working well. I've been listening to WGRN this week, and I know it's working. So anybody got updates on that? Brian, you posting, so why don't you say a few things on that? And let's see. Oh, good. You did a good interview with Carolyn Harding. Good. Yeah, that's great program as well. Thank you. Yes, and keep those in mind, that those are cheap media. I mean, not cheap, but inexpensive media that you can get the word out, and you can record those and propagate those out into your social media offerings. So they are definitely more inexpensive than corporate media. Brian, do you have anything you want to say? You got Grassroots Ohio with 2 speakers next Friday, WGRN next Sunday on WCRS. Brian, you got anything? Curtis, Brian Curtis. I did want to mention while I'm getting him on there, I don't know if I'm going to share my screen. I got 2 things I'd like to do, some announcements. Some of my peoples, I just want to make sure you understand that we had, I've participated in this for several years, this sacred walk. I haven't done it for a few years now, but there were 8 people that just were arrested out in Nevada at the nuclear weapons, used to be a nuclear weapons site. It's not been a site since '92 when we walked into Vegas and the former Poppy Bush, President Bush, put a moratorium on nuclear testing. But there were just some folks that were arrested yesterday for Good Friday out there. 8 people. And then another local person that local composer has, and I don't know if you've ever come across Julius Eastman. This man was very avant-garde composer, but we have a local composer as well, Rocco De Pietro. He's with Columbus State Community College, but he's just written a book on his musical journey with Julius Eastman. And I encourage you to really look through this, because if you're into music, these guys have pushed the boundaries of music. And Rocco, he doesn't expect to sell many books, but this Yours in Beethoven, his memoir is dynamic, and I think, and it's not too expensive either. So those are just some examples I wanted to say. Suzanne, you had your hand up a minute ago. Do you still want to say something? Oh, there you go. Brian took a couple classes with Rocco and when he was a few years ago. Yeah. Suzanne, you had your hand up. I don't see you right now. Where you at? Where you at? Okay. Again, thank you again, Adrienne, for all your work. Any other questions on progressive, any progressive agenda, advertisements or announcements that we have going on? There's many things transpiring. When you start thinking about the overstepping of the judicial side, you know, when did the conservatives get to thinking that the judges should be doing policy? You know, they always said judges shouldn't be doing policy. Now they're doing all their policies are coming through judges. And then when did they decide that we didn't need, or that we need a nanny state? They always said we don't need a nanny state. And now here, everything that's being passed by these folks, it's becoming more and more of a nanny state. You know, I got to take care of you because you can't take care of yourself. The flip-flop in this whole thinking is for me just is bizarre. Beyond the politics, it's just the general trend of where we're at with folks. We see go ahead, Bob or Suzanne, you just got your hand up again. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you. Oh, it was
No, please.
Subject to WGRN.
Please. Yeah, WGRN. I haven't kept up with the tower issue and that other stuff. So please catch up us, please.
So Tim Chavez, who was on the call, but he's not anymore right now, is going to host our tower on his land, which is south of downtown Columbus. And something's being built right now. It's not up yet. It's not running yet. We are only streaming on WGRN.org right now.
Okay.
So, but when we come back up, we're going to be at 91.9 instead of 94.1. So that's going to be something new. People have to try to remember and tune into a different broadcast radio station if they listen to us in their car.
I like 91.9 better than 94 anyways. I can never remember 94. So.
And we're going to have a booth at Earth Day, and Earth Day is going to be where it usually is, down there by the river by Kosai, on Saturday, the 22nd.
Thank you. Yeah, Earth Day is April 22nd. It's all day event, a festival. Go down there and speak with a bunch of folks. It's a great event. Brian Curtis, you up? DJ BC.
I know I had to stoop down because. All right. So what she said, and then a bunch of volunteers, including Rob, took down the 98.3 tower. Actually, this time last month, right before last month's Salon, and so 92.7 is unaffected because they're up in Worthington. We need volunteers. I don't know if WCRS will be at Earth Day, but I know WGRN will, or at least Suzanne by herself. She'll be smiling, singing, strumming the guitar.
You can join us, Brian.
I don't even know my availability yet.
Oh, okay. But if you want to join us, you're welcome, and bring any you want.
Oh yeah, and then exactly, because WCRS is still on the air, and lastly, Takani. Yeah, that's a huge loss for us and for the Free Press, and she will be missed.
Yep.
And it's not going to be the same without her.
It's true. So true. Thank you, Brian. I'm only taking a little moment to, yeah. I know it's not good radio time, but it's good to remember good people, it really is. I just want to say thank you to everybody. This Salon, April 8th, 2023, Columbus Free Press Salon. We're focusing on local elections and progressive agenda today. I went down to the State House first time in probably 2 years for two bills that were going on, HJR 1 and 83. HJR 1 is to change the rules in the middle. They're trying to change these rules to increase the number of counties you have to get petitions from, up to 88. It's hard as heck already to get it into 44, and then to raise the number of people that need to vote for initiatives in the state to be up to 60%, which I don't think this bill could get 60% vote in the General Assembly. That's why they haven't voted on it yet. So, you know, if the vote doesn't go through with 60%, how could they expect a general election to get 60%? It's just challenging. And then the other one is 83, which is my mind is blanking right now, but another issue on how my mind is blanking. Does everybody remember what 83 is? Senate Bill 83. It's geez, I forget. But anyways, isn't another important thing that's going on down at the General Assembly. And so I encourage you to head down to the General Assembly. Oh, Sandy's getting back on. She was down there as well. The General Assembly, I encourage you to get down there, and if you, I would take and put a mask on, because the toxic messaging that's going on down there is just amazing. They're so toxic. The politics at the state level, and I see what Ms. Hood said. It's probably better not to go in that building right now. I'm amazed that some of our senators that are in such a minority down there to can even stomach what's going on. But yeah, I think the council, you could do a lot more work in that medium than at the General Assembly at this time, because the toxicity, just the insanity that's down there, you can just breathe it, and definitely put a mask on when you go down there. Anybody else got anything along those lines, or anything else? I know Pat's on. Sandy, you were down there. What's 83? I forget 83. You were down there for HJ1. I don't know if you can. Yeah, there you go.
Can you hear, can you hear
Yeah.
me? Yeah, I was down there for two times. It was fabulous in some ways. I mean, the arguments are so ridiculous that in some ways it's kind of easy to argue, but I have to say the people did a really good job who were arguing against it. So, but then they've got it in the Senate too. I mean, they are just pointing out all the stops. It's so obvious what's happening. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't even know anything is happening down there.
Yeah, I 83 again is the public teachers are public professors, public universities are going to be much harder to organize if 83 goes forward, and that will have a spin out to a lot of public sector in general, and it's sort of a SB5 miniature that they're trying to put their toe into the water to see if they can move even 83 forward, to see if they can bring back a big attack on collective bargaining as well as public sector, which is one of the last growing. I mean, we went up 1% in Ohio, 1% in organized labor in Ohio in the last few years. So the whole reality is that the environment is changing. The younger folks coming into work are wanting to have some kind of voice at work, and are wanting to have ability to address working conditions and compensation and retirement and those kind of things. So I had both Hardin and Remy down at my place this week, and they were going on a capital fund, Southside Capital Fund. That would be something, Ms. Hood. You organize your own independent capital fund tour of areas, and go searching around different areas of town. They were on the south side this time, and they were down there looking at projects that may come forward through the capital. And you know, we've gone over $1 billion on both operation and capital funding at the city level. So yeah, why don't we organize some kind of capital fund, and where you would come down and you give your priorities on what the capital projects should be, you know, developing whatever you see coming forward that will be needed. I think that'd be a good counterbalance in the summers and fall, late spring kind of time. So if you got the energy. Anybody else? I don't want to drag this on. It's a beautiful evening, and my wife was mad. We were supposed to go walking, and I reminded her that the salon was going on. And yes, please, Pat. And then so I'm going to go out and walk a little bit myself. So Pat, Marita, please, and then Bob.
I just wanted to say that Kathy Cowan Becker and many others, I'm starting my video. They're working very hard to stop this fracking in the parks bill. Well, the bill is passed, but the PUCO can have something to say about that to make them enforce the law as far as living up to all the agreements they need to make just to do it legally. So people, if Suzanne sends out an email after this, she can send them Kathy's email, and we'll let you know just how to contact her to get involved, because we do not want fracking in our state parks. And that bill passed and mandates it. So the county, the commissioners, and the commissioners can make a difference. So contact Kathy, please.
Yeah. Yeah, Kathy and Chuck was on earlier. I don't know if he's on still or not. I think he took off, but yeah, Simply Living and those folks are dynamic and need to keep close to them and do what we need to do to push a planet, people, and peace agenda moving forward on a local as well as national, international level. Go ahead, Bob.
It's the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Oil and Gas Commission that they're working with, as well as the PUCO.
Fantastic. Okay, Bob.
Yeah, I don't usually talk about federal things, but I'm involved with a Quaker lobbying group that lobbies Ohio senators and Ohio representatives, and I've been involved in that group for a number of years.
FCNL?
Friends Committee on National Legislation. We're not politically left or right or anything. We try to focus on Quaker values. But I'm really nervous because we're going in on Tuesday to meet with a staff member of J.D. Vance in the same building where Portman used to be. And within a week, J.D. Vance said, I think, if I'm quoting accurately, he believes that all transgender people are mass shooters. And I don't know how, I mean, we're not going to talk about it while we're sitting there, but I just feel like I'm walking into enemy territory sitting in that office and meeting with that staff member. It's unsettling.
Well, you could always come back and say, well, it's all white guys too. So, I mean
it's like 893 mass shootings were by white, cisgender, probably heterosexual men.
Yeah.
And one single mass shooting makes, anyway.
Yeah. The one statistic that hit me hard this week, I heard in the mass shootings in the public schools or in schools in general, 338,000 individuals have been impacted by just those attacks at this point, just this year. 338,000 students, teachers, administrators have been impacted by these shootings that are happening in the schools. And that just hit me like, bing! I was like, whoa, I hadn't even thought about those numbers. And when they start talking about mental health issues, don't just think about the shooter. These folks that are experiencing these shootings have not been dealt with in an appropriate way. They've been given 15 minutes every other week, and then it gets cut off. That's the kind of help we're giving these young people that are in a war zone. If you really want to talk about it, they're using military grade weapons to attack these children, and so we have to really push for a larger discussion. And yeah, Stephen, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's obvious that having more weapons isn't going to solve anything. It just puts it just like anything else. The more cars you have, the more people are going to get hurt. The more weapons you have, the more people are going to get hurt. Generally, people are aware of, gun safety and so forth and so on. And you have a few other people that aren't being regulated, if that you want to use that term. Which, talking about the PUCO, I was listening to something, I don't know what it was, maybe it was the solar program that Blue Rock Station puts out, but the PUCO, or I read it, is allowing these coal plants to buy power outside of the optimal time for cell power. So we're paying all this extra money for these coal plants, one. Two, they're not being regulated by the PUCO. The PUCO is just letting them run free and do whatever they want, whether it's selling power at a high rate or, the PUCO is supposed to be a watchdog for the people and not just covering for the corporate entities that want to ream everybody else. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, you're so right. So right. The PUCO, regulatory commission, basically, of the utilities, public utilities, was put in place many decades ago as a mechanism to control what is now being truly witnessed by us in just one case is the $61 million I don't even know how to call it. It's corruption in the most simplest of states. But that $61 million thing with Householder and the GOP chair, at least that's moving forward. We'll see where that heads, and then you have other things that are out there as well. But the PUCO has lost its way, and I don't know if we can regain regulatory nature in anything with the present construct that we're in. I don't know, folks. I think we're in for some rocky river water going forward here, and keep your feet in front of you and keep your head up, get a helmet on, and let's go. Because it's going to be one of those sessions that or seasons that we're in, that if we don't push and organize well, we can see ourselves going backwards pretty hard. Don't want to put too dour on this reality, but I think as a progressive and a very attentive community that CICJ, that's the Columbus Institute of Contemporary Journalism, that we are, free press, that we need to continually put our noses into places that folks don't want us to be in. Go to places that go and document and be on the front lines and really agitate for a larger table, not only for folks to be at a table, but we need the table to be even larger, and the construction of that table needs to be different. We need more seats. We need more voices at those tables, because as the old adage is, if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the table, and they're going to tear you up. I know Suzanne is the vegan of house, and so she doesn't want us to be all eaten up, okay? So, all right, folks, I think we're good. Thank you, Ms. Hood, again for your work and service, and please call on us when you need specific and particular and other poignant times of your campaign. Do you have some targets that you have in your own mind right now of where you want to be at a certain time, like in July 1st, where do you want to be? In September, where do you want to be? Do you have those kind of timelines laid out yet?
So we don't have it broken down that specific. We have been told in order to run a competitive race, that it's going to take about $250,000 to run, which makes no sense to me, but
Bill Moss, though, he ran with $500.
Did he? Interesting. No, not Bill Moss. I loved him. He was the school board.
Yeah.
It's another Moss that I have reached out to as well. He actually is a retired police officer, but his son and I ran back together.
Yeah, POR, that was a very powerful organization back in the days, and still has some residual power in city politics. And yeah, definitely jump on Moss's agenda. That'd be very important.
Okay. But that's where we are. That's where we are right now. The donations they're slow, but they're steady coming in, and hopefully this week I have a couple of interviews that I'm doing with organizations, national organizations. So hopefully we can garner their support and bring in, you know, the support from the organizations that they're connected to, grassroots organizations as well.
Thank you. I see Sandy's on stack, and then Brian was saying that his mom was a good friend with Bill Moss, Brian Curtis, and Bill and Bob campaigned together once back in the day. That's true. Yeah, they did. They were on the campaign, throwing shoes at people all over the place. No, get your shoes off, Miss Hood. Get your shoes off. Start. Go ahead.
Funny
Sandy.
thing is, I said, I'm bringing my shoe.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, this is Sandy. I'll make this quick. I just wonder about campaigning on the fact that you don't have a lot of money. It's just donations, not taking corporate stuff, and they wouldn't donate anyway because, well, you wouldn't take it, I guess, is the main thing. And just, you know, run on that platform. As Move to Men, I'll be out there in a little bit to you and asking you to pledge to amend the Constitution, says it's corporations, not people, and money is not speech. But either way, I think you get a lot of attention by saying we're not taking any corporate money, which means we work for you. Or that, you know, we don't even have a lot of money anyway. Just give the statistics, compare with what you got and the other group has. And we know City Council has a lot of money they give to their favorites. And there's a reason for that. And I think just kind of, you know, uplift. I think that'll help uplift what you're really all about. So, and I'm so glad you're running for City Council.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, everybody. I think we've